All right, AP Human Geography classes. Here's our next unit, ethnicity. And what we're going to focus on first is where ethnicities are distributed, specifically in the United States. But first, let's start here. What is ethnicity? All right, so the definition, it's a group of people who share cultural traditions of a particular hearth, right? So a specific area. So they identify with culture and religion as part of ethnicity. Now, ethnicity is usually regionalized. Let's say, for example, in a specific country, or in the case within a country, there might be different ethnicities that are, if you will, regionalized within a country. So some examples of ethnicity, you can be Ukrainian, Bosnian, Italian, insert your country here, all right? And that domain is under ethnicity. Now, what's the difference between ethnicity and race? Big difference here. It's a group of people who share a biological ancestor. So it's not regionalized, it's tied to something. And usually with race, there's social conditions. So some examples of race include Hispanic, white, black, and there's many more. On the U.S. Census Bureau, they identify 14 races. Now, obviously, there's other, right? So that's a whole other category. But they identify 14 different races. Just take a look at that real quick right now. All right, let's go to ethnicities within the United States and where they're clustered. Let's first focus on Hispanic Americans. Well, they're clustered in Southwest, specifically in Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and California. And probably, you can guess right away, this is primarily due to migration patterns. On African Americans, they're clustered in Southeast, specifically Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi. Once again, guess what? Tied to migration patterns. Asian Americans are clustered in the West, specifically in Hawaii and California. Once again, this is tied to migration patterns. Wait, American Indians are clustered in the Southwest and Plains states, specifically in Arizona, Oklahoma, New Mexico, and Utah. Now, migration patterns, yes. Forcible movement is probably more closely related to why American Indians are clustered in these specific areas. All right, let's talk about cities, within cities. So 90% of African Americans and Hispanics live in urban areas. This is one example. This is Chicago to the right here if you take a look at that map. Now, there are highly clustered areas of African Americans in two of the following United States cities, Chicago and Detroit, and obviously Chicago's right there. There are also highly clustered areas of Hispanics in the following towns, Los Angeles in California, and El Paso and San Antonio in Texas. And again, this relates to migration patterns. Okay, so why are African Americans highly clustered in urban areas? Let's take a look at this for a second. This is due to, wow, I've been saying it like 10 times, migration patterns, right? So first off, there was the forced migration, aka slavery, during the 18th century. Secondly was the Great Migration from the South to the North and the West during the 20th century. And last but not least, there's the expansion of neighborhoods during the 21st century of African Americans. Let's focus on these right now. All right, so like I just said, forced migration during the 18th century, well, that's the slave trade. All right, and obviously Africans were sent to the Western Hemisphere, 10 million in total over a 100-year period, specifically to the agricultural South to become slaves. Now, during the 20th century, because of World War I, many men were fleeing, to fight overseas, specifically white men. Well, many African Americans moved to the North and West in search of jobs. Hence why we have large populations, like I mentioned in a previous slide, in Chicago and Detroit of African Americans. All right, and last, the expansion of neighborhoods. So African Americans spread from ghettos in these cities to adjacent neighborhoods or surrounding cities. If you take a look at the map here on the right, you can see where African American settlement first started and then where it spread out thereafter from 1950 to the year 2000. Take a look at that real quick. All right, guys, that's it. We focused on ethnicities clustered throughout the United States, right? We specifically dove into African Americans as well and concentration of ethnicities in cities. All right, that's it. I will see you in class.